I see my mic's working. Hey guys, how you doing? Hope you all have been doing well this week. Hope it's been a busy week so far for me. So I had a chance to really kind of think of what I wanted to do for today. So today I think I'd do a kind of a simple one. We'll kind of Manny here. And so I think I kind of do one a small one here, and also I think I do something a little different as far as coloring in this time around. Yeah, I figure I'll do one with him where he's got a mallet. I think I'll do one. Maybe he's kind of doing a visual nod to Gallagher. Hey, Shay White, good to see you. Glad you dropped in. Sorry I started a few minutes late. It's like, yeah, this time I decided to start stream today around 11 rather than 10:30 this time. I figure if yeah, I kind of wanted suggestions from one of you guys from last time, where if I start a little later, the more you guys have a chance to really kind of see more of the stream. So I figured I'd go ahead and actually do that. And so I figured I'd do this one I did of well, let's see Manny here. And I figured I'd do one where it's more where he's actually kind of doing a visual nod to comedian Gallagher. For those who know who Gallagher was, he's probably before your time. He was like a prop comic that was really popular back in like the 80s, back in the 80s, 70s and 80s, where he would actually smash things, with watermelon. So I think I'm gonna do is start with a very light sketch of of actually just him here. I think I have the mouth kind of curl up a bit. Usually, if I want to have a mouth full curve like this, it kind of gives more wise ass demeanor, which I like for him to have. So I figured maybe we'll have this large mallet that Gallagher would normally use. I think I'll have his shirt jacket here. Let me get his other hand right here as well. Yeah, so I haven't really posted too much in a while, so I've been pretty busy with a lot of different stuff. So a lot of things I've been busy with. Some of them I actually mentioned during the last stream. One was actually kind of looking after my family. I've actually been taking my mother for some medical appointments. Luckily she's fine, by the way, in case anyone's concerned. I was actually making sure she's actually taking her for her appointments. Also, the week it was tax season, but also earlier this week I finally got a new car, and I was overdue for one too, because it was starting to break down. It wasn't becoming fully reliable. So I finally went out and actually got a brand new one. Yeah, but it took a while to finally get a car. Because first they go to the dealership, then we have to go to actually buy, buy it. And in fact, I'm planning on taking it back later on. This is coming Wednesday, just kind of get some extra like detail work done because we want to kind of make sure everything on it, and it was good before I decided to actually go. Before we decided to go, decided to keep on using it. Then maybe I'll have it. Let me see. I figure I have to wear his shoulders around. I figured that kind of gives a little. I figured maybe have his shoulder maybe cocked up a bit, but I'm trying to see, do I want to keep it cocked up or if I want to have it relax? No, I have it keep it up. And one thing about the Gallagher's like juice, Gallagher's old like mallet thing, it was part of the whole thing he called the juice matter, where he would actually kind of show off how how it can perform his different things. Because really, I think what a lot of folks probably didn't realize these more people who were just kind of seeing it from years later and realize it was actually a parody of these really old commercials from like the 50s and 60s where these advertisers would actually use the blender to advertise these things called the blender to actually really advertise stuff. Jay Ward was incredible cartoon. Jay Ward's post, the very beautiful with Ted and oh yeah, Jay Ward, he was fantastic. Yeah, actually, I think I came across some of his work not too long ago. I can't remember if it was on, if I was browsing. Someone posted a blog about it on BlueSky. Not blog, but posted on BlueSky. I was like, oh, it's like, oh wow, this guy actually was a great, really was a great cartoonist. Because I know he did, of course, Rocky and Bullwinkle, Dudley Do Right. But I didn't. Oh yeah, and do about himself. Yeah, he was really great at drawing poses too. In fact, it's been years since I've seen those shows like Rocky and Bullwinkle and uh Dudley Do Right. Because I remember they u- they used to air there was a few others too. It was Bullwinkle, Dudley Do Right, Mr. Peabody, Hoppy Hooper, Georgia Jungle. I remember that one too. Tom Six, Super Chicken. So he had a lot more than I thought. Now Georgia Jungle, I didn't realize that was him. Design trailer for Captain Crunch, Quest. Oh, so he really did do a lot back in the day. And but I remember Cartoon Network, they used to play them all the time. Usually it was late at night, like where because keep in mind this is back in the early days of cartoon back in the '90s, where they pretty much had like an arsenal of just like really really old and like cartoons. And so I think this is because I think by the time once that merger with Time Warner happened, where they got access to a higher amount of like Looney Tunes stuff, but also when they start making more of the more original shows, they kind of started phasing some of these really really old shows out. Yeah, but I have to check out those ballerina. I have to check out the ballerinas ones you were talking about though. Something else I was going to mention. What was it? And I'm actually looking up right now. Oh, I didn't realize he had a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Oh, that's really neat. I like that. Yeah, I like that. That is really neat. Let me get his little shoes here. I think I have bits of watermelon that are actually on him. I think what I will do now, I think I'm going to use this to actually go ahead and actually start drawing the outline. And normally I would just use the red. I would use the red marker to actually the rest red pen and started doing my sketching. But I figured this time around, since I am planning to do some color some pencil next, I kind of want to actually do something a little different by using the actual regular pencil for once. And you'll probably see what I mean just a little bit once I get around to the coloring section just yet. So let me kind of get, the inside of his mouth. Now I'll get the his eyes here. I have them kind of like bunched together like I usually do. Now we get his eyes. Let me bring out his jaw. The jaw, let me bring that down. Let me get his hair that's out on the side. And also the whimsy here is probably maybe a watermelon that's actually falling on his head. And then we get his shoulder up and come down around his arm. Let me get a little more chunks of watermelon here. Come down around his little blazer, but come down around here. Nice. So let me get the other side. In fact, let me bring up his bow tie. I know it's hanging down a bit too low. So let me bring it up here. And maybe I'll keep it right here. So I'll bring it up here. Let me get the other side, of his little blazer. I'm gonna come down, come around here. Because I realized it's been a while since I've actually kind of drawn one from scratch. Normally, so I've gotten so used to actually just having my, having the sketch right ready to go. So it's kind of neat to actually, nice to actually kind of draw it like right in here front. Ooh, sorry, losing my words. To actually draw from scratch for a little while. Because for me, I like to get to the at least I can get to the fun stuff right away. As far as actually kind of like coloring these guys in. Let me get his other hand here. Let me just kind of get the his mouth, get the wide base of it, the large handle. Yeah, I'm gonna keep the outlines here fairly light at the beginning, so I figure once I'm done with cut, I can go back in and actually start touching them up. And come down the top. Let me get the buttons on his shirt. Let me kind of bring his legs. Let me get the part of his, those two-tone shoes. There we go, that's looking pretty good. I think maybe here is probably a stand where he's probably had the watermelon. Maybe it's just smashing, but he's probably still a few pieces on the bottom. I think maybe he's got a few chunks here. Maybe, I'll have it. Maybe his mouth's still dripping. We actually just kind of refined our line work a bit before we move on to our next step. Let me bring the back of his leg out a bit more. Yeah, I still want to make sure I have that little line of action going. I always try to make sure I have some sort of line of action going in my pose, especially if I'm like standing up, because for some reason when I draw a pose, I always find a little more challenge by drawing like poses standing up. It's not that they're hard; it's just I try making them look natural. Because when you have like a character like just standing up, it's hard to kind of really get some real personality out of them. So a lot of times that's why I draw if they have like if drawing a pose that they have their arms crossed, or if they're doing something while standing up. Because I feel if they're doing something, it kind of shows a little bit part of their personality, rather than just standing straight up with their legs with their arms at their sides. Okay, so I think now that I've done that, let me go and actually erase. Actually, I got an eraser right here I can use. Don't worry, I know it's a little dirty. Don't mind. It's okay. Yeah, Jaguars made first name series. Crusader Rabbit. Oh, really? Oh, really? I didn't know that. So this is even before Hanna-Barbera? Let me look him up. Oh, wow. Wow. Oh, so that was... So my test by 1948, Progress Center 1950, 1951. Oh, wow. So this was a good couple of years before Hanna-Barbera did their thing. Oh, wow. So I didn't realize he had beat them to the punch. Had beat them to the punch on that. But I keep forgetting, like television animation had been a thing before they got on board. Yes, I'm surprised surprised I had forgotten about it. But that's cool. I didn't know Jay Ward. I didn't know he was the first though. Because of course, animation, that was still at that point in time, that was still kind of like a movie thing where you went to the movie theater, while you were waiting for the movie to start, of course, you saw a newsreel, you saw a trailer, but you saw a cartoon as well. And that's usually where their main domain was, like, for years. And see, every changed. Kind of once, of course, when television changed around, of course, then you started having, TV. Then you had TV shows, of course. Jay Ward also had, but once it really started taking off, then you started seeing them on live. I think it was probably around, it was probably like around probably in the 60s. No, actually, take that back. I think it was probably like the late 60s, early 70s when they started being phased out. Being phased out of the theaters. Because I know Looney Tunes, they were pretty much making stuff in shorts, I think, till like the late 60s. I think till like 67. I know Tom and Jerry, they were making like stuff until like 67. I think the only the major holdout from the Golden Age was probably Walter Lantz. There's a Woolly Wetbacker cartoon. They were making cartoons up until like 72. And that was kind of more from the Golden Age of animation rather than say like any revivals or like later projects they did where they actually brought them back. Okay, so I think we get started on our next portion of this. Give me just one moment. Hey, Brendan Barney, good to see you. In fact, let me readjust this camera so you guys can see everything a little bit better. Yeah, I just started this new drawing here of Manny here. He was kind of giving a brief little tribute to Gallagher, he was kind of an old school like prop coming from back in the 80s and 90s. And one of the things that he would do, in fact, hang on, let me read just in case you won't see the rod. Give me just one moment. Give me just one moment, guys. And so basically, those know who Gallagher was. Gallagher, he was kind of a prop comic. That was kind of popular. I think it was like in the late 70s, like early 80s. And one of the things he would do, and one thing is do, if somebody don't know his famous routine, where he's at the whole juice-o-matic, where basically he was kind of paralleling those old like blender curves from like the 50s and 60s, where they would show all the millions of ways you could use one. And he kind of was pairing that, but instead of using an actual blender, he used an actual mallet where he would smash watermelons. I've heard sometimes he would do cake, sometimes he would do tomatoes as well, and a bunch of other stuff as well. And I figured that probably would, have been somebody that Manny probably would have taken a huge influence from as far as setting up his career. But give me just let me check on something for a brief moment. What was his full name? Yeah, Leo Anthony Gallagher Jr. That was the full name. And so for today, I figured I'd keep something a little bit simple. I thought also do something a little bit different. So I think for today, I work with more of like a limited color palette. I'm only going to work with just 3 colors as far as coloring this guy in. So I figured what I would do first. First, I'll start off, just with coloring in, his suit. And usually for me, what I like to do is I tend to like start the brightest colors first, and actually just start work the rest of the colors later on. Yeah, every now and then I kind of want to like go off the even path, like try out different stuff, see different stuff, and just do different, just kind of shake things up in my drawing process. Yeah, cause I got my stuff in the background. It says furnace props for props and observational style. This match very with watermelons. Oh, I haven't realized he did that many shows. Since more than 30 years, he played between 100 and 200 shows a year, destroying tens of thousands of melons. Damn, that's a lot. Yeah, here it is. I'm actually looking up Wikipedia page of him. Okay, Sledge Mag, an active physical prop comedy, was a pair of unintentionally humorous advertised by the Ronco Vegomatic, a kitchen tool that was heavily advertised on U.S. television from the mid-1960s to the 70s. Gallagher's audience were often issued ponchos or knew to bring brain coats to prepare for debris to cast in the audience. He dubbed the front shows as Death Row. He also provided props in the large arena jumped like a couch. He wrote his own jokes. Yeah, yeah, he was kind of the guys I kind of looked at, as far as design when I was actually kind of designing Manny here, because I figured he kind of that guy where very observational, but he also uses a lot of props and stuff as well. Only thing is, Manny, he kind of takes, his private dramas a more of a cartoonish degree, because he is a toon. I figure I have some bits of maybe watermelon here, but I know like since watermelon husks are more green, I think I'll use a little bit of yellow here for the for part of the rinds, the watermelon rinds. Pizzarama, Woodland, True. Oh, this is the new Oh, there's a little storyline. Pizzarama, the Woodland Trio put in charge delivering pizzas when the driver van gets a flat tire, he doesn't have any spare. Oh man, that's gotta suck. Yeah. So what it shows is like with Chuck, Randall, and Frank. Because with those 3, they gotta be careful with Frank because he might end up eating their pizza. Use a little bit here. I know there's part of this rinds here. Even though this is gonna be more of a brown, right now I'm gonna be using use a little yellow here. Yeah, right now basically for here I'm just using a little bit of like yellow since I'll be mixing in. So I'll be mixing some yellow colors later on. Just gonna use. Okay, I knew. Yeah, I just want to make sure I had gotten it right. But that sounds like it's gonna be a good one right there. I can see them probably getting a flat tire and trying to have a Randall and Chuck trying to keep Frank from eating it. And so that'll probably be the hardest part of the journey itself. I'm not trying to get a new tire, but trying to keep Frank from eating it. Then I'll go a little deeper yellow on his blazer here, since his core is kind of like a really bright yellow. I noticed my Discord has a gag hang up involving Randall forming into a staircase. I think I did see. I think I did see. I actually like that kind of new, like, little physical gag I'd added for him. Animal was a fun cartoon I watched. David and did a great job. I've heard of Animal Land. I think that was David Holland. I think it was a British. That was like a British animation company, if I remember right, wasn't it? Okay, are they? Let me see, because I think I've heard of them. Because I think I remember coming across those on TMC Turn Classic Movies a while back. A while back, because they did an episode where they reviewed those episodes. Yeah, that was it. Animal Land was the brainchild of David Hand, former Disney animator, finished directing Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs and Bambi. When he left Disney in 1944, he moved to Britain. He set up his own studio, got him up British animation, tried to make shorts compete with Disney. That's okay. So I have seen these. I remember they aired about 3 of them on that one episode. It says only 9 were produced, and while successful across Britain, Hand failed to find a U.S. distributor, or they did get distributed in Canada, and the studio closed down in 1950. Oh man. His son David Hale had formed a David Hand production own right to 9 image shows that tell me of paintbox by hand. Yeah, I do remember seeing, because I remember there was like it was 9 of them, but I remember they actually weren't that bad. Yeah, they were actually pretty good. Of course, it's hard. Yeah, it's true. He did. He worked on Matches and Mitchie, People's Jump Jet. Yeah, dude definitely had some serious like animation chops. So it's not surprising he went and formed his own studio. It's a shame they weren't able to make more than 9 shorts. Cause I'm trying to think, did he ever do other stuff aside from that? Cause let me look up real quick. So now I'm actually be looking up stuff too. Cause I've always known him, but I never got around to actually really looking him up. He's an American animator, works through 30s, supervising director for Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. So got him up for information, Amalan, Music Paint Box. In the 1960s, Hand cartoons being aired on British television for the first time in the United Kingdom, aside for decades. He was honored at Buckingham Palace in 1950. I don't really see. Huh. I don't really see anything else. It looked like after he did after Amalan, after he finished with Amalan back in 1950, he really didn't do anything else after that. Because at least on here, at least I don't see other, like, as far as animation stuff that he had done. That's interesting. I gotta give Judgment Day another rewatch though. That's a strike with that. Almost that kind of reminds me of Heavenly Puss, with that Tom and Jerry show. Only this time, this has more like a nightmarish kind of quality compared to the other one. That would never were both crews and sharks take a vacation, get away from each other, do this to everywhere, only find it in the exact same spot. Like they both plan to go to Bermuda and realize they're already there. Yeah. Okay, so he retired. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I was like, 'cause I was looking up his track record, so he hadn't really done anything after Emily. I was like, okay, so that makes it he did retire. So here I'm actually gonna using a little bit of orange, red here. Gotta be bright red for his nose, and since he's got pale peachy skin, I'm gonna use a little bit of that for his flesh as well. Yeah, but it only lasted like 9 episodes. Because I don't see like the studio lasted a lot less time than Fleischer Studios. I think Fleischer. Now, granted, I think Fleischer like managed to get at least about a good 2 decades in. Cause I'm trying to look up real quick. Let me see Fleischer Studios. Oh, no, right. It's a little older than I thought. Okay, so it was founded in 1919, and it went defunct in 1942. Yeah, because I think after 1942, the studio ended up getting bought out, and getting bought, I think, by Paramount, and it became Famous Pictures. So I'm just gonna use, I'm just lightly using a lot of like red, or not being too heavy with it just yet. Just being very light, very light. I'm trying to think what else I was going to mention. Yeah, the President was known for Coke Clown, Popeye, and Betty Boop. Yes, indeed. Yes, it is. And Flash is such a fascinating one because like they're one of the few shooters I know that had their own like style. Because while they could be goofy and fun, they could be scary, they could be surreal, they could be they could be very jazzy time. And I've rewatched some like their older shorts, and like recently, like they definitely had a different vibe compared to the others, where they had a more like a rougher edge compared to some of the other shorts, the other shorts that were coming out at the time. And it's always a shame, a shame, they went defunct because like they really had to really innovate techniques. I think the one takes I really love that they did a lot, especially with the Popeye cartoons though, and it was called a multi-plane set. I forgot what was the actual technique called. Let me see if I can find it up real quick. I close when there was a certain name they had for it. Was it multi-plane set, multi-plane background? What was it? What was it? Oh, I think this is it right here. The roto. Okay, I think it was a rotograph. It was an aerial image, photographic process of composing animation with live action backgrounds. Yeah, that was it. So basically, they have like a live action set they would actually build. And I think what they do, they would kind of put on like a rotating camera where they would actually rotate it around. So while it would rotate, they would actually have the animation on top of it. So look, they actually have like almost like a 3D effect. And I think that's pretty neat because I haven't really seen any other like cartoons like since then really do that. I think aside from, I think Cup, I think Cuphead series, they actually kind of brought brought that technique back like for the, I think either for the game, also for the games, but also like for the show too. The relationship between Fletcher Brothers and real life were rough and what was like Popeye and Bluto. Yeah, I've heard they really did not get along, especially in the later years. They wanted to memo. Oh man, I didn't realize it was that bad. Because I knew they really didn't get along, like especially in later years. I didn't realize it got into that bad. Your multi-plane camera, yeah, that's the one. That's it. And also, I think it didn't help, during the later years, I think it was a couple things happening. Because I know, like, once Hayes Code started really coming a thing, a lot of their cartoons ended up being kind of toned down, especially like the Betty Boop ones. And also, because I know they wanted to try to do more, like, bigger product, kind of similar, like, to what we Disney too, because of course, they did Gulliver's Travels. That was a huge hit. But they tried, I think it was called Mr. Bug Goes to Town. I'm trying to think, probably getting the title wrong. What was that good stuff? Yeah, Mr. Bug Goes to Town. It's like that one ended up being a huge bomb. So yeah, it was a lot of stuff. I think it was that. I think what happened. I think their floors too. I think that went on strike too. It was a lot of stuff I can't really remember at the moment that really ended up causing them the downfall of them. Yeah, and I think if you ever watch an old Betty Boop cartoon, or especially an old Popeye cartoon, definitely make you see the old like black and white ones. Only reason I say that because I remember for a lot of them when I first saw them, I used to see them back when they were on Cartoon, especially on Boomerang. But on Boomerang, a lot of times they only play these colorized versions. And see, the problem with the colorized versions, these were like some really old copies that were made in the '60s. And what happens? I think they were outsourced to Korea, if I remember right. But what would happen was that when happens like the animators that were doing these colorized versions, instead of drawing every frame, they redrew every other frame, and they just kind of did like, and they just kind of hastily pasted over the background, so everything looked really like flat and choppy. So if you ever come across, make sure you come across the old black and white ones where you can really appreciate how it is. And also, I thought was pretty neat, just in the vocal department too is how the studio was going to have some money. Yeah, they were losing a lot of money, being money, especially with that big bug thing when Mr. Bug ended up going defunct. That really didn't help at all. And they all, there could have been more where they could have turned out because I know they were also doing those Flash. They did those Superman cartoons because Superman cartoons those had a really high budget. And apparently, the funny thing when they did the first Flash, made the first one. Apparently, I think it was Max. I can't remember. It was Max Flash. I think when initially and they're being asked to do the do Superman was apparently they didn't think they were gonna be able to get a larger budget. I'm trying to remember how the whole story worked. Let me see. The studios. Let me see. Fighting to work. Let's see with Superman shorts. I can't remember the. I was going all the way. I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to remember the full story about what happened, but I can't seem to find the notes about it. I need to get better at actually writing writing down my little historical anecdotes whenever I talk about stuff. But trying to think, what else was I going to mention? Does anything happen to Looney Tunes in the redrawn versions they were discussing? Oh yeah. In fact, I remember. I think I came across some of this colorized Looney Tunes version. I think on it went on Pluto. I want to say it was one of these rando channels on Pluto TV, where it was playing nothing but cartoons, but these were all like really old, like public domain prints, and yeah, they're bad. They're really bad. That's why I didn't mind the later ones in the '90s, because in the '90s now it's for Looney Tunes it was a little bit different, because of course since he had a whole had a had control over a lot of like the old like movies, a lot of the old cartoons made by Warner Bros. At the time. He had made colorized versions. Now the only difference with those they didn't color hand by, they actually colored everything in digitally, so everything's in color, but you don't lose any of the great animation the original one had. There was also another called Freaky Friday. We're dying after hard batch your head swap bodies. Ooh, like a Freaky Friday scenario. Oh, cool. Yeah, I think with Lindsay Lohan and Jamie Lee Curtis. And fun fact, I think I actually saw that I actually saw like the sequel to the movie not too long ago. I think I saw it like actually about 2 months ago. I think it was Freaky Earth. I think that's what it was. And I thought it was okay. It was okay. I think I still like the first one a little more. Because funny, I actually remember seeing that back when it was in theaters. Tell me about me at children. Toy Bluff. Toy Bluff. That's Don Bluth's son, isn't it? Oh yeah, it's Reggie Toby Bluff. Illustrator worked on made this an artist. It's funny. It wasn't until up until like a few weeks, 2 weeks ago, I knew that he had a younger, that he had a younger brother. I don't know all this time. I don't know all this time I've known about Dumbo, but didn't know he had a younger brother. Man, because I looked up his discography. I know this guy. He normally did. He did quite a few of animated movies himself, but I don't think he. But he really didn't do a lot of stuff with Don Bluth because I know I'm looking at his filmography. He did Mickey, Donald, Goofy, the Three Musketeers. Good movie. I love that one. The Tigger movie. I've seen that one. Good one. Bays in Toyland from 1997. Saw that for the first time this past Christmas. Story of Santa Claus. Hang on for just a moment. I'll be right back. Sorry, that was someone else I was talking to. Sorry about that. Sorry for the delay. Let me get the inside of his mouth too, out to with red. But where was I? Oh yeah, Tell you Bluff. I remember seeing Monsters on opening day. Yeah, I still need to see Monsters University. I've heard that one was really good. But since I've a few days ago, she's actually just uploading another overview. This time on Nihao Khan. Oh, I'll have to check that one out. I think I've heard of that show, but I've never seen that one. I'll have to check that one too. I still need to actually check out the I've only tried just only seen the beginning of the Cyber Chase Lord, but I had a chance to really finish that one just yet. You know what's funny? I didn't even know up until you showed that video there was even lore video on Cyber Chase to begin with. But that's cool though. It's good to know that there are folks out there that still remember that show. Do that. So let me actually. That's all I'm gonna use for our red for right now. She's pretty done what it does. That's good to know. Let me see something for a moment. So that's what he's at. Now I'm gonna go in with the blue. And usually I like that with some of those, especially those more long form, those long form videos. Like it helps that they're actually kind of funny. It kind of makes them a lot more enjoyable. Cause I think naturally that's I'm gonna use blue here as well. I'm not gonna lightly use it here on his shirt. Cause I can imagine like those videos take a lot of work to complete. But of course, it's a matter of actually, of course, like doing all that research, getting everything together, editing down, and writing a script, by reading out all your stuff. I know it's gotta be a lot of work. And I am planning kind of doing some layering here too, as laying out these colors. Since I even planning some brown, I'm gonna kind of color, his hair here too. Having more of a purple because I am gonna go back over it with some more colors later on. But where was I? What was the other thing I was gonna say? I'm just kind of going all over the place. I'm sorry. But where was I? Oh yeah, Toby Blue. So he did Babes in Toyland. I'm just looking at his filmography. Story of Santa Claus. I haven't seen that one. Oh wait a minute. Yes, I have. Okay, I recognize features the voice of Ed Asner, Bay White, and Tim Curry. It was on CBS. Okay, that one I have seen. Because I do remember Ed Asner doing the voice. I know Jim Cummings, he did the singing voice as Santa Claus. And it was funny hearing it because if you've heard both Ed Asner and Jim, because they don't sound neither of them sound anywhere near alike. So it was kind of jarring, kind of hear Ed Asner doing a Santa Claus with it. All of a sudden I know when we start singing, he sounds like Pete. But I think I've seen that one. That one's pretty good. I think what was another one he did? Alvin the Chipmunk, so he was a character designer. He was from the 80s show. The Smurfs, that was from the 80s show. The Chipmunk Christmas, that's from the 81. That was a Christmas special. Banjo the Woodpecker. Okay, so we did do something with Don Bluth, because Banjo Woodpecker, that was actually one of the very first projects Don Bluth that did, when he started going we went solo. It was like an indie project that Don Bluth did, before he did like Secret and Nim and all his other stuff. Nick Jr. and that's what I did on Nick Jr. Me and Vance are currently working on War Sense. It's kind of like about Bikini Bomb, but Great Prince of Rose on the Woods, a little war with it. Like same Private Ryan War. Oh, nice. I like that. Kind of almost like an action comedy type of deal. That's cool. Yeah, I seriously get to me to get back into get out of doing more writing. Right, 'cause it's cool always hearing about these different plot lines. I was gonna use red here too, but I think I'll just do that later. I think I'll just make sure I add it. All right, down here is pant leg. Cause cause one thing often times I think I've mentioned this before. I think you probably mentioned that you do this all the time. A lot of times if I ever get that writing, every time I got that whole like writing bug, if I'm actually just writing stuff, I usually have to keep a journal nearby, or at least have a sketchbook where I know I'm gonna be doing a lot of writing. I should keep that near my sketchbook, so that way if I have a new idea that comes up, I can just write it down, and I can just save it for later. Whenever I actually forget, I'll finally get around to actually like writing it. I think aside from the store I'm still working on for my Cowboy O season, from the few times I've made comics for I've drawn comics for like Manny here. I think only I think the last time I actually did any actual like real story stuff. I mean, as far whether it be story wise or fan wise, as well as on a larger scale. I think there was one I had started on with Bear Rachel was walk up to Manny taking the worm and eating off his head. I can actually see that too. I said Manny probably wouldn't mind. Probably wouldn't mind that either. Let me use it on his eyebrows here. You know, I am going to make go another pass on some of the other colors here. Get the chunks of watermelon on his shoulders. See, as I'm mixing with his yellow, we got this nice little green color that I wanted. Yeah, you sure we give him a pat on the back. Yeah, you should write some swelly skill. Really, I think May will probably say, and yeah, but I got a million more. Yeah, I got a million more where that comes from. Yeah, because one thing that man will do kind of is like routine job. He'll do his probably often. He'll like the banter the crowd because like he often likes to do like crowd work too. Where kind of like banter and kind of react to the crowd because he often sees like a routine that's kind of more like a very interactive or participant type of activity. And so now that I've done that, let me go back and use the which color I want to go back and use a little more. I think I'll go use it, pick up the yellow again. So I'm gonna lightly go over, with pea skin areas, add a little bit of yellow to kind of give it that an orangey look. Not gonna be too, don't want to go too heavy with the yellow. So I want to keep it, have that reddish tint. So now we'll have more of a flesh color. Yep, it's being very light as I'm doing this. Of course, I'm going to go a little heavier on the hair. Yeah, why am I imagining her on Barbarity on a tightrope, bring it down, crushing her web while being interested in crushing Manny. I was like a little tight, so a tightrope had going on while Manny's probably doing his act, and Manny's probably just trying to do that. While it's still kind of focused on them, hoping he doesn't get flattened. A little bit of tightrope. What was else I was going to mention? What was it? What was it? That'll come back to me. Yeah, that's a funny image. That's like a pretty funny image right there. Right on the tightrope. I don't know if I've seen for guys on the tightrope. I don't know if I've seen that one yet. Yeah, next time when I go back to yeah, later when I get back on BlueSky, I'll check and see if I favorite already. Cause I don't think I've seen that one from you yet. That was like a new. That was kind of a new art trait drawing y'all did. Speaking of art trait, yeah, I still would like to do art trait with you as well. Just hadn't got a chance to do it just yet. Even though You know that scenario you thought with Horatio and T. That sounded like a pretty funny one right there. Okay. But I figured, you know what? Once we get into talking later on, what we can do, we can do that one, or depending on whatever ideas we bounce back and forth with, we end up doing something different. But yeah, I do kind of like that idea. So I'm just gonna use yellow here to kind of go over to blue some more. Right here, I'll use a little bit of light yellow on his shoes. Yeah. Oh, good. It's only been it hasn't been an hour yet. Well, almost an hour. It's only been 51 minutes. Because I do have to go in for work later on today, but I wanted to actually kind of like get in here so I could get in and actually get a chance to actually stream for you guys if I had to head on in. I am glad I started a little later. Cause I figured, you know, starting a little later, I'll probably give you time. Figured to give you guys time that chance to actually kind of drop in instead starting so early this time around. Plus, it helps, you know, early this morning I was actually kind of tired too. So I think what I'll do again, I'll actually return to using some of the more of this red again. And see, as I'm doing that, I'm just kind of going adding more of that brownish color. And I think even later on, after I'm done with the stream, I might work on this a little bit more to kind of like even out the colors a bit more. But see, even you know, here and sometimes you don't always need, you know, like a lot of colors, you know, to color everything in. Sometimes all you do, sometimes all you need is three. Even though I prefer to have more than this. It's nice to kind of do a little bit challenge to really kind of like see what I can do with just like a limited palette. Your new drawings looking amazing. Hey, thank you. And also, what I will do later on is whatever once I'm done with that, I'm going to show you guys some of the other new stuff that I've been working on. I know some of you probably have already seen already, because I posted when I did the I posted something when I did the post letting you guys know that I'll be streaming today. So I know some of this you probably might have seen already. So but hopefully you guys don't mind me showing them again on here. Just go a little red, go a little red here, and that's the other thing too. If I'm using these three, because I have to make sure getting a nice like consistent layer, so that way it won't look so patchy. Do a little darker on his bow tie here. Now I know his jacket is like a golden yellow look, so I'm gonna use a tiny bit of that red here, not too much, but just enough to kind of give him more of a golden look. Just enough. This Monday I made a new character, Marisa. She's a hare, max hair, Buddy Buzz Spider. Oh, cool! I'll have to check that one out once you actually that I'm drawing of her. I'm gonna clench all strong with shelter and eyes of ears. Yeah, I'm kind of digging that tightrope scenario, but we'll talk more about it later on after I'm done with the stream. If I'm not able to talk to it, if I'm not able to talk with it on the stream, I'll probably like later on this evening. At least once I'm finished with the errands I have to do, the errands I have to do for today. That's why I usually prefer to try to do my streams in the do these streams in the mornings. That way, you know, I can do them. I'll get a chance to talk to you guys. Also get out of the way so that way I can focus on the other stuff I need to do later on, in the afternoon. Because afternoon, you know, like time just ends up going by really quick. Because like Oh, we work on something. Next thing you know, it's 3 o'clock. Then it's 4. Then it's 6. Then next thing you know, it's goddamn 9 o'clock. It just gets away. For me, it always just gets away, especially on the weekends. But I think that's looking pretty good. I think one thing and last thing I will do here before I do, I think I'll kind of like kind of tighten up the line work a bit more. I was gonna have. Trying to think, do I want to color this? I was gonna have this be like a brownish color. Let me see how this looks. I think I'll still do that. Or maybe I'd have it maybe more of a gray, because now it is looking more like a gray. It looks like it's more of a gray color rather than a brown. Salting my seeding lines, bit balls, LED energy, being very, contain the silliness, as well sea lines are. Oh yeah, Caesar, because I think you shared me a few drawings of Salty before. He's pretty great. Yeah, he's pretty good. So let me see. I'm trying to think. What else do I want to add? What else do I want to add? So I think what I will do, I'm just gonna add a little bit more. I think let's add a little bit more of the pen, a little bit more blue here. I guess I'll just stick with having this more of a grayish tint to it. I'm trying to think, it was something else I was getting ready to say. What was it? What was it? Let me get this here. Let me get underneath his bow tie. Let me kind of go around his hair a bit more here too. We just got do touch-ups here, here, and here. I remember this one episode of Dragon Tales. Imagine when there by himself. Did Emmy go to the grocery store with his dad? I think I remember that one too. Yeah, I think that was one of the. I think that was like one of the few times. I think there was like a few times he did go by himself. 'Cause I think there was another one where I think he went because I think her Emmy was on a I think she was on like summer camp. Yeah, I think it was in season 2 when that other time happened. And that was for such a pretty good show. That's a pretty good show. I think I probably mentioned in my last stream too. But for even like when it came to actually learning Spanish, I mean, aside from all the Spanish I learned in grade school, that was the kind of show where I learned a little bit of Spanish before Dora came along. Good on it. And it lasted a pretty good while to my recollection. I think it lasted like 5 seasons, I think is what it was. Let me look it up real quick. It landed from 3 seasons. Okay, 3 seasons. Okay, yeah, from 1999 to 2005. Okay, yeah, something's missing. Every close temperature. Yep, that was the one. That was it. Yeah, yeah, I vividly remember that because that's one of the few times they actually kind of like switched things up. So yeah, that was a good show. I think when it came to I know I've mentioned it here on the stream before, but I think probably my top shows I used to always tune into back when I watched PBS Kids. Yeah, Dragon Tales was one, then Arthur, then Zabumafu. That was another one. That was another one. Zoom. That was another good one. In fact, fun fact with Zoom, soon because I remember they would have that moment where they would actually interview kids at different like elementary schools. Yeah, to make that show, they actually came to my elementary school one episode. They came to my elementary school. They actually did my and they did my sister's middle school as well. And funny is, I remember they played. I remember we all sat in the big break room. We actually had a chance to see it live when they premiered the episode. And I think because we actually saw the whole school, we actually saw some of the kids being interviewed and talked. I forgot what they guys talked was about. I thought it was just cool that we got a chance to be on TV. And I think they only did that one time because I vividly remember. Because I vaguely remember, like, later on when they re-aired the episode, I think they had a different school going on. They had a different school, like, on instead. Teletubbies my show. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Teletubbies was good, too. I didn't watch it that often, but, whenever it was on, I did remember sitting down. I do remember really liking it. And I didn't even... Excuse me. And for not too long, they did do, like, a new version not too long ago. Like, a new, like, rebirth vision. Because one of those is silly, but it's calming too. That's the Squirrels the throwing stuff is good to make him feel special. Well, those are always the good ones. Because sometimes it's hard to figure out what makes you special. And sometimes things that are make you special are not always the most extraordinary things. It can also just be very simple things too. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna kind of thicken up my outlines here. Actually, I've heard the reboot's okay. And it's funny, I didn't realize until recently it was actually a British show too. Because I think because I remember kind of hearing here's a version online where I heard them over British the British narrator. I was like, wait a minute, what's this different voice? And then once I found, and then once I looked, I was like, oh wait, it's a British show. Okay, that's why. I think here in America they redub it with a different voice actor, with a different narrator with more of an American accent. I was like, okay. And I think I heard where they actually shot the when they actually shot the show. I think they shot it in these fed fields like somewhere. I think it was somewhere. It was in Scotland. I'm trying to remember where they said they filmed it exactly. I think the stuff is still there. Yeah, it was on a farm in Wimpington, Warwickshire. So the small parish and hamlet lying left bank of Riverside, Warwickshire in England. Yeah, that's it. One side, no. One kind of silly thing I think I bring up. I think anytime I saw that show, I always kind of looked forward to it. Anytime I saw that show, I was always more focused on the background because apparently, that whole field, it already had a whole bunch of rabbits that just kind of free roamed the entire area. So it would be cool to kind of just see something that would randomly just pop up every now and then in the background, sometimes in the foreground too. I had a feeling it's the UK for the accent of the characters. Yeah, because I think where I am, they didn't have them a British. They didn't have him a British. I think they had a different lady, like person redub with more American sounding voices. Because I know when I heard some of the British sounding voices when I came across some episodes online, I was like, oh wait a minute, that's not the same voice I remember when I saw it. I'm going to leave now. Goodbye, Reggie. Hey, good to see you, Shay. Glad you're able to drop in. It's always great to see you. They're actually Flemish giants. Oh yeah, I've heard those Flemish. They're huge. I think when I first saw a picture, I was actually wondering if they were real or not because there are some huge damn rabbits. But they look so adorable though too. Yeah, they're big. They're big ones. If I ever decide if I want to get a rabbit, I might want to get one of those. Because that'd be a nice little compromise. Having a nice little rabbit, but it's actually the size of a dog. Let me get around his little belt here. Probably gonna write some dialogue for him a little later. Dialogue for you. I was gonna do it now, but I think I'll probably do that a little later when I think of something good for him. I have an idea what I'm gonna do, but I'm probably not. I'm not gonna really do it right now. Yeah, I'm just gonna thicken up the outlines around here, since I know some of them did get covered up when I started laying down the color. But you see, I only used 3 colors here. I was able to already get you'll get a good amount of coverage of these 3. I was like, Randall gets so flexible, like the SAS bucket. Oh yeah, Randall's great too. I honestly love those new drawings you do with man, especially that one, what, not a staircase one like he showed before, but also the one where that's where he's frozen, but also with him being a snake who can actually squeeze in the tight spaces, in space like cases, he can do all different poses. I think that just makes him right for a lot of great, right for a lot of good expressions, but right for a lot of great physical comedy too. Let me get the stand where he had the watermelon on. Even that trio, I actually kind of like how it was at that mixture of personality, because you got, Randall being the cantankerous sass bucket, Chuck being more, you got Frank who's more the goofball, and Chuck is kind of the level-headed, kind of straight man, kind of really balance out the two altogether. It's a pretty good dynamic. But I believe that's all. That's all I'm gonna do from our guy Manny here. So I'm gonna show you guys a little bit of stuff I've been doing as of lately. Oh, by the way, I did get a new sketchbook. By the way, I think I did mention it earlier. And let me show you some stuff that I've done. Like here, such easy which touches and fine bounds are present when they fall or bump. Yeah, I actually like that sign. They had like a very roundish, kind of like squishy look to them. So I haven't really done too much. In this, not like in this little book here. And mainly because I'm actually almost done, with this book. I pretty much finally finished filling everything up in this one. So for those of you that were here last year, let me move the camera so you guys can see everything a little bit better. So of course, those of you last year, you might remember the drawing I did of Jafar with Iago. I ended up finishing that one, but there was some other stuff I did too. I think some of you might have seen this already. I did this drawing of Ratigan from the Great Mouse Setter. Well, probably one of my favorite like Disney villains of all time. I haven't really done all that much, then just some like random like sketching with some of these markers. Just some stuff playing around like with these little stencils. Probably the most recent real thing I've done so far was actually something I did yesterday. And in this one, it was kind of a recent one I did where I used these little highlighter markers. The Rulio Ratio. And so yeah, I did. Yeah, the Chump French Far one. Yeah, I did. I actually ended up doing a little bit extra work with the Jafar Iago, where I kind of like tweaked it up a little bit, like added a bit extra stuff to it. Because even though I was liking how it was looking, I figured let me kind of come back to it a bit later on, so I could actually like fine tune it a bit more before I actually go and actually post it. Because what always ends up happening every time I do something like these live drawings, are like I'll do. Whether if I do them live or if I'm actually kind of doing my spare time, is like I always try to step away from or at least a good couple of minutes, or sometimes a little long, because that way I can come back with some fresh eyes. That way anything that needs to be fixed, it'll jump out right away. And so for this one right here, this is actually something I did with before Sharpie markers. In fact, I actually have them right here for a moment. I actually use these four right here. So I figured I'd give it a shot by actually. Oh man, I didn't realize the top went on this. Okay, I hope it still works. And I figured I'd try to see how this. Weirdly enough, Sharpie always looks different on camera, because in real life, a highlighter marker has like a greenish tint to it here. And I know from what you're probably seeing right now, it kind of has like a really really yellowish to it. It doesn't really have that greenish tint, and it's not really glowing like it is in real life. But I know this turned out because it didn't have kind of like more like a retro type of 80s look to it. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it for that book, because like I literally only have like one. Do I have one page? Yeah, I only got one spare page in that one. That's pretty much it. and I'll pretty much be done with that. That's why I actually went ahead and started on this new one here because this new one actually has like some of our newer stuff in here. And so I haven't really done all that much. Hang up for this one moment. Let me see. Yeah, Frank's like a comfy little bed grip. His stomach is like a softy pillow, same for ratio. Yeah, I never get that from the drawings. They definitely seem very soft with squishy characters. And very lovable characters too. These are some of the other sketches. So I've only started like kind of doing a few like little sketches in here. Just some random kind of like headshot characters. Here's just some ones here I did. Kind of this more this like wormy like character. Just some sketches I did. Here. A basis. Before I think for some reason when I did this one, I had this 80s song for this group called Spandau Ballet. They had this song called Gold, Gold, Always Believe in Your Soul. Like that was one of their big hits from back in the day. And I just had that on the mind when I kind of did these few, reminiscent of stuffed animals. Oh, I didn't even think about probably using stuffed animals that's kind of relevant for designing characters. That's a good suggestion. I didn't even think about that. And of course, I think some of you probably saw this when I posted online. So this is something I did with the highlighter markers I had here. I use them highlighter, but also on these ballpoint pens too. This is kind of more of a caricature or a characterized version of an old like Rolling Stones album cover for Dirty Work. And I wanted to try to do a challenge because I was working with like a limited palette. I worked with like 4 like neon colors, but also like some limited palette from the ballpoint pens. I thought it'd be kind of a cool experiment to really kind of actually like recreate this, but with kind of a limited palette, but also go to more caricature style too. I considered doing portrait mode, but I figured that would take a lot more. It'd be a lot longer. It would take a lot more time. Plus, I think doing a character thing would be a lot more fun too, because they all have pretty interesting features. Especially, we got Mick Jagger and Roy Wood. I mean, not Roy Wood. Keith Richards. See in here. Yeah, too. Of course, this one to have guy coming as part of his wardrobe. There was that. Also, there was a few other stuff. That's some more stuff I was when I was testing out some of the different markers that I had. Interesting stuff. Hey, thanks. I'm glad you're liking it. Just some more kind of like rough drawings here. This was one of the initial sketch I did when I did the Rolling Stones one. I actually start off with this one right here, but the problem is I didn't like how the composition was actually turning out. I felt all the members looked a little bit too close together, so that's why what I had and did is that I just went ahead and just started over. Yeah, I just went ahead and actually kind of started over on a separate sheet to where they're a little bit further apart. And sometimes, like, that's what you gotta do sometimes. If something's not really working, it helps to kind of stop there. Makes that runs appeal, makes it very clear as you put it, and huggable. Yeah, which is a good thing. Just a good thing. And I think that's pretty much it that's in here so far, because I only have maybe just one, like, sketch here, and there's stuff here as well. And that's pretty much all the stuff I have in this new book for right now. And you can see this new book is actually a little larger than the other one that I had earlier. Hey, Brendan, I'm about to go and actually kind of like call it here. So I appreciate you dropping in for today's stream. Hopefully I'll get a chance to actually watch you stream tomorrow. I do have to go into work a little early tomorrow as well, so hopefully I'll get a chance to drop in, but before I have to go in. But until then, guys, I hope to see you all again around the same time next week. Even though I still need to get around next week before I readjust my schedule so where I can do more than one stream a week here on YouTube. I still have to pick a designated day. But until then, guys, I hope you all have a wonderful weekend, and I hope to see you all next time.